All right, let's get started. All right, this is a review over on our Facebook page for the Betrayed Addicted Expert, and it is from a therapist who says this is finally a place to send clients to get some really good insight to betrayal trauma, and it is game-changing, which is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to hear from other therapists, and we want to be an asset for you and help you as much as possible, and we're pro-therapy and we're pro-good therapy, so we like having good resources and good people that we work with and refer to, and so I love hearing from a fellow therapist, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Okay, there's some buzzwords in this recovery space and with relationships and things like that. Things like boundaries and safety and so we're going to talk about one of those buzzwords today, which is transparency. I need transparency in my marriage, and I think sometimes people throw that out and they don't actually know what they're talking about. It's just, I want you to be honest, I want you to be open, I want you to be transparent. So the goal of our episode today is to really outline, what does it mean to be transparent in your marriage? What does it feel like to be in a marriage where there's transparency?
That's interesting.
Can you start with okay, so what if we didn't have the history of betrayal and addiction? Because I think that's where my head went this week on thinking about this topic is, where's my own stuff coming through on this, where I can't see what's really a healthy and normal way of looking at transparency.
So it, can you always trust your emotions? No, your emotions aren't always grounded in reality. So as someone who's experienced betrayal trauma, you might freak out over little tiny things and you feel like your spouse isn't being transparent. At the same time, maybe the person who's wanting to hide things is trying to gaslight you, to get you to think that you're crazy, so that you back off and you don't discover some things. So you get caught in this quandary of, am I crazy, or is my gut and my intuition actually telling me that something's not there and there's a lack of transparency in my marriage? And how do you differentiate between those two?
So just to make sure that I understand what you're saying, I'm just thinking it from my shoes, right? Having manipulated you with gaslighting and all kinds of things, Ashlynn. So what you're saying is we can't trust emotions to keep us grounded in reality. We can't trust that emotions will keep us grounded in reality. And when you have a partner who gaslights you into thinking that you're crazy about something that you're actually pretty grounded in reality on, then it makes us second guess ourselves, and then we think maybe I am crazy, or maybe I am off kilter with this.
And
is that right?
If the crazy making is happening in the marriage, then chances are it's coming from some lack of transparency.
Okay.
But it also could be coming from some trauma response as well. And so let's give an example. Let's talk about an example of what transparency would look like in a marriage, and in a marriage where there has been some betrayal trauma. Okay. So you were kind of talking about a similar example, but let's say that I'm the client or whatever. I'm the guy, right? And I want to go to lunch with a coworker. Okay, and so I go to lunch with this coworker. We talk about business. We don't do anything really inappropriate. I come home and my wife sees my text messages setting up this lunch with this coworker, and she freaks out and accuses me of not being transparent. Have I been transparent?
No.
I haven't. Why not?
Because you didn't share all the details.
I didn't. Go ahead, Ashley.
I don't know that it's even sharing all the details. It's just being able to. I would look at it like, hey, I'm going to go to lunch with this coworker. Does this feel okay? Does it feel safe? Or hey, I'm going to invite this other dude to come with us, so it's like a 3-person or something like that. The knowing beforehand would have helped me.
So let me take this a step further, because the story doesn't end there.
Okay.
So my wife freaks out, and then I turn the tables and I tell her, you know what, like, when are you gonna get over this? When are you gonna get off my back? I didn't do anything wrong. Like,
Brannon.
can't I live my life, right?
This has happened
Really?
Oh,
with
this
us.
totally happened.
Oh, absolutely.
I took Ashlyn on a business trip, and when Ashlyn was, and the girls were with, you had the girls when they were little,
I don't remember this.
and we were at a convention, and Ashlyn had to go to bed early, just because with the girls, and it was the last night of the convention, and after all of the hubbub with all of the people that I worked with, then there was it's 1 a.m, and my coworkers and I were like, let's get something to eat. So we're starving,
Right?
and both of my phones had died hours before that. And I have no way of communicating. Well, I had ways to communicate with Ashlyn, but I just figured I'm just working, right?
Right.
And finally, Ashlyn texts one of my coworkers.
Is this, I want to ask, is this before or after she knew about any of the affairs?
This is after the first affair.
I knew about the first.
Yeah.
Not in recovery.
Not
Right.
Not even a little bit in recovery. So she was freaking out, and my coworker responded and said, "Hey, I just got a text from your wife." It's like, yeah, both my phones died. I couldn't tell her where I was or who I was with, and we were with a group of coworkers, male and female. But Ashlyn was totally freaking out, and I honestly was like, I totally remember thinking this. I've been working like 20-hour days the last like 3 days, and you're trying to paint a picture that's not reality, that's unfair, that's not right, and how can you go there?
Right.
And I was the dude. I was the douche who was crazy making. And I just felt so judged and wronged, even though the first affair had already taken place. I was so blinded.
And you're on the cusp of a second affair,
Mhm.
right? So you're in the middle of that, and you're saying, what, Ashlyn? I went out with some women late at night, what's the problem?
Mhm.
And I didn't tell anybody or anything, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and from my eyes, his affairs happened within work environment, right? You're spending 20-hour days with these
Mhm.
people, and so I was super honest with that gal I reached out to, and her husband had an affair on her, and I just said, without saying this is what Coby's done, I just said, you can understand why this is upsetting to me that he's out with you girls,
Right.
and it makes me feel really uncomfortable, and I don't feel like, I just need truth here. And she was super great in saying, I super understand, and I am here, his phones are dead,
Really? That's lucky.
yeah.
Yeah.
Super, right?
Yeah.
Super.
But here's the thing. Okay, let's come back to
Can you hear the
transparency.
douche in me in that situation though?
Well, just
The denial.
I'd just say you're very out of touch with
super.
helping her heal after she's been betrayed.
But
right?
see,
That's
I
the
wasn't-
last thing you were doing there.
Helping her heal, let's just be really, really honest here. Helping her heal was not anywhere on my radar.
No,
It was defending what I thought was perfectly okay.
right. It was all about you
It
in
was,
that moment,
totally.
right? And not understanding where she was actually
No,
at,
I had zero
right?
understanding of where you were. And it's like, looking back on it, how horrifying would it be to be in a hotel room with your 2 little babies and then think, where in the world is my husband? Because I haven't heard from him.
And I will preface it with, he was at a job that worked with probably 80% women, like beautiful women,
Mhm.
and they were really big into social media, and so they had posted pictures earlier that day with Coby.
Uh-huh.
So Coby surrounded hugs of like 8 beautiful women, and Coby posted on Facebook. And so that's where my head is.
Totally.
Ashlyn, you had no reason to be triggered
Right.
at all.
And I had the audacity to
What's
blow it
wrong
up in your face and to gaslight you in those situations.
Okay, but how is this a breakdown of transparency? Because it is. Okay.
Transparency, boundaries, like
But let's define the
Number of
transparency
things. Okay.
part of it.
Okay.
What is how are you not being transparent in this scenario?
well,
And what would transparency look like?
transparency would to me what that looks like is is being transparent in setting my expectations of where, like, what's going on with me and where I am.
Like my
Okay.
phone's died or they're about to die and
Uh-huh.
this is what we're gonna do and this is what I'm going with?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, and maybe I'm totally off here as far as the
Okay, but I want to play
transparency.
devil's advocate just a little bit here.
Okay.
I don't want to be controlled by my wife.
Right.
I don't want her hovering over me, telling me everything I can and can't do, and
Mhm.
and shooting all over me. I don't want that. Okay, but I also want safety and I want trust in my relationship, and I want a transparent relationship. Can both exist?
I want my wife to trust me, but I want my own independence to do what I want to do.
I want my autonomy and I want trust.
That's such crap.
Here's how I see it, and this is probably a really dumb way of seeing it, but when there is secrets of any kind,
Mhm.
that's when I see no transparency. That is when there's like this, I need to have my secret life. This is my work life. You don't
Yeah.
need to be a part of it. Or these are my friends and you don't need to be a part of it. That's where it was really confusing and hurtful to me. So it wasn't like I wanted to control. It was like, let me be a part of your world.
Right.
And I wanted to keep a veil of secrecy, maybe, probably. Was I thinking that exactly? No, but I wanted to have a veil of autonomy where I could decide how much or how little you knew.
You know,
And
try this experiment. Go home today, unlock your phone, and give it to your spouse for an hour, and just like give it to them. Just see, and the experiment is to see how you feel.
yeah,
How do you feel if they have total access to everything on your phone, and for an hour they can just rummage through whatever? If you can hand it to them and it's like no problem.
Without hurting and adjusting anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
without any fake apps that hide this or that or whatever. It's just
Yeah.
like you just hand it to them, then you're probably pretty transparent in your relationship. If what I just said freaks you out and it terrifies you, you better look at it because you're not being very transparent. What do you have to hide in your relationship?
that's really probably the perfect way to describe that for
And
me.
so,
Because I
what
was
if-
that guy who would freak.
What if you really aren't hiding? Like, you're not having an affair, you're not looking at porn, you're not you're not doing those things, but yet that still freaks you out to say, here's my phone.
Well,
Is
then,
that possible?
yeah,
I think that is.
yeah, because there's still shame there about somebody seeing more about who you are and knowing you and
Or
Yes.
accusing?
all right, and there still might be some fear there of like, well, she might find something that she misinterprets,
Exactly.
and then she's
That's how
gonna
I
freak
feel.
out. But here's the thing: a transparent person. If I'm transparent, and I go to my wife, and she finds something that she thinks let's say she thinks I'm having an affair,
Yeah.
I won't freak out about her pain and about her fear. She'll freak out about it, but if there's nothing there, if I know I'm a transparent man,
Yeah.
if I know I'm an honest man, then I can actually be very connected and interdependent with her in that moment and understand why she's feeling what she's feeling and hear her out and be there for her because I got nothing to defend.
Yeah.
Right? And so,
Meaning you can endure any places of emotional hijack that she's experiencing and say, even though she might be emotional right now and there might be some false accusations, I know that she's in a hard place and I can be okay being perhaps even falsely accused in the moment, realizing she's in like an emotionally compromised place.
because I got nothing to hide. I'm transparent. So then I can connect to her. If I'm not transparent, then I'm gonna defend. I'm going to like turn the tables and crazy make a little bit so that I can deflect, so I can hide this thing here, hide this thing there.
Let me give you a real life example for me on that then.
Okay.
So the second affair had ended and I was like, I wanted the most dense space possible between me and what had happened. And I didn't want anything of that. I didn't want anything in my life or on my phone to indicate that that's what was going on, right? So while I was like really focused on being sober, right, and not acting out, and while I was really focused on trying to put separation between me and what had happened, I still had this enormous undercurrent of shame that I could not let go of my phone. It never came out of my pocket. It never sat on the counter, ever, because just the fear and the shame of being discovered somehow.
You were so caught in that feedback loop, in that rut of like, I've got to hide something.
Exactly. Even though in that current moment I wasn't acting out, right? And that might have been like a 6-month span or something like that, a 9-month span. Even though I wasn't acting out, I was still freaked out and in total shame when it came to my phone. So even though I wasn't currently engaged in that, I was freaking out because I was not willing to be transparent because of what might be discovered,
right?
What could be discovered from the past.
Right.
So what we just talked about, I totally lived. I don't know how many times I lived it, not just about the second affair, but just about all the instances of, looking at porn and acting out, etc.
I mean, you can just hear the attachment problems there in the relationship. Is like, I've got to hide some things. I can't be completely authentic in my relationship because I might get found out. What kind of relationship are you really going to have? What kind of foundation of trust will you really have if that's where you're at in your relationship?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible because I was so fearful of being rejected by you, Ashlynn, that I pushed you away with what I did.
You created it.
Yeah.
You created rejection from her because you were so scared of getting rejected by her.
It's like, I got an out plan.
Yeah. Here's the thing, is there's a lot of things that I don't tell my wife. There's a lot of things that I don't disclose, I don't talk about, I don't tell her. So, in fact, I would say there's more things that I don't tell her than I do tell her. So let me explain. I have a ton of thoughts throughout the day. I do a ton of things. I interact with a whole bunch of people. And at the end of the night, if I sat down and told her every thought I had, it would be overwhelming, and it just wouldn't make much sense, right? So being transparent doesn't mean that you have to do constant disclosure with your spouse. If my wife asked me anything, I'd tell her. It's like, I'd be open. But like, there is autonomy. We are independent of our spouse, and we're connected to our spouse. And my wife knows that she could ask me anything, and I feel like I could ask her anything about her day, or what she thinks about this, or where she's at spiritually or emotionally or whatever. And she's my wife's fairly transparent, right? And so then we have that trust together where I trust that she's out right now in this very moment. She's not next to me. I don't know what she's doing. But I know if I asked her, hey, what'd you do this morning? She'd fill me in and she'd tell me the truth, right? But I'm not going to go home and say, hey, give me an everything about you and what you did all day long, because then I'm just caught in fear and control. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Let's go through it on that, Ashlynn.
No, it sounds like a healthy way of looking at things, and for both sides, so that you aren't stuck in fear. Like, hey, I can ask you and you're going to tell me without this defensiveness, or you're gonna make sure you tell me the things that you might that might look bad, right? Like, hey, I want to make sure you understand. I get messages from men on social media that I just show him, like, hey, I'm declining this, but just so you know, like, I do get these messages.
Right.
And it's not anything, but it's just, hey, just so you know.
I text women about work, but I'd feel perfectly fine if my wife had my phone, and she knows I text them about work, and I'm open about that, and there's nothing to hide there, but I don't go out of my way to say, here's every last text that I've ever made.
So what perpetuates that thought process that I need to disclose like everything?
Fear. So what happens after betrayal oftentimes is, now I need to know everything about you so I can control everything about what's going on so that I can keep myself safe. And what it actually does is it undermines rebuilding the foundation of a healthy relationship, which is built on trust, which is, look, you've got to go out and be you, and I need to know that you will let me know if you hurt me, you will let me know if there's things that I need to know, and that you're not in denial, and you're not justifying not telling me the hard things. That if I ask you things, you'll be honest. But at the same time, I've got to trust that you are an agent unto yourself, and the person that you are is creating safety with me even when I'm not around.
Yeah.
right? Both those things exist at the same time
And that
in a
is
healthy
a
relationship.
hard place to get to, Brannon, because in those beginnings of betrayal, it is such a confusing, how do I trust myself when I've like given myself all
It's
this
very
confusion,
difficult.
and where is this thought coming from? Is it fear, or am I being guided, or
Right.
is it my gut? And
Like if Coby were to go on a business trip to Europe right now, because I know that's where a lot of the acting out happened
Right.
and stuff. You could have him on FaceTime the whole time, Ashlyn. Right? Like, where are
You
you?
see
What are
everything.
you doing? Text me. What are you doing? Right? And that actually wouldn't build trust. You would be building trust in your ability to control him and watch what he's doing. Right?
yeah,
Now this wouldn't build trust either. For us to say, hey Ashlyn, butt out of Coby's life, he's going to Europe. And you might have a great time and get over it. That's not going to build trust. Right? So
No.
what builds trust? It's knowing that Coby's going there, working his own recovery as a man in recovery, as a man who wants to create safety for his wife, who's going to be honest if he slips up and makes mistakes, because you could. You're human, you can make some mistakes, right? But you're going to own it, you're going to be accountable, you're going to be transparent about it. That's going to build trust in your relationship, right?
Yeah.
so it sounds like to me a part of it is for the betrayed or the once betrayed is that you have to let go of his choices. You have to say, your choices are yours. I hope you come to me in trust and safety and honesty, and that I can be safe for you.
Yes.
But your choices are yours.
But there's a paradox to this. You want transparency. You want the other person to tell you, be able to tell you everything, right? But to know that they're transparent and that they're trustworthy and that they're honest, you got to kind of back off and see if they are,
And it's scary.
right? And it's scary. So, and you could get hurt if you're not constantly hovering over everything that they're doing, right?
So, question, because in our story, a lot of the lack of transparency was around the opposite sex at work, in that environment. And so even now, I think when we've gone out to dinner before, Coby just lacked boundaries, I think, with the opposite sex.
Totally
And-
did.
And so when we'd even go out to dinner and we'd be out with friends, right? And
This is before recovery.
no, this
this
is
example.
actually in recovery.
This was?
This example, yeah.
Oh boy.
Wait for it, just in
Yeah,
case.
wait for the example, Coby.
It's not.
He's like scared now.
No, I totally
What's
am.
happening?
Like,
So
oh,
it's
man.
not super bad, but with our history, it didn't have me in a good place, and obviously I remember it. So we're sitting at dinner, and the waitress comes up, and she's like telling us whatever, right? Introducing herself. And Coby leans over and he puts his hand on her forearm. Just like, hey, I want you to bring me the best, da da da. And he's like telling her. And I remember looking, going, I look stupid. Like, I'm his wife. And
he's touching her.
he's touching this other woman.
Mhm.
And we're with another couple who knows our story.
Yeah.
And they're probably going,
What? This is
Coby,
weird. Yeah.
what? Like, that's, you don't even know this woman.
Right.
And so I remember in that moment just kind of, it shut me down a little of
Mhm.
like, what's going on?
Right.
And being able to tell him and saying, hey, in that moment, that was weird.
Right.
Like, that's actually not appropriate. And being able to help him understand, like, because I really do feel he had no idea. Like, these things were so ingrained in him of like, I can do this because it's letting me know, or letting you know that I care, or
Whatever. Right.
whatever his intentions were. And so it was really this surprise to him sometimes when I would tell him. And I don't know if that was you in gaslighting me or you really were unaware. Do you know?
No, there's no question that, I mean, I remember Amy Andrus, our therapist, telling me this very, very, like, probably one of the first visits is like, sex addiction is one of many things, but one of them which is boundary failure. And I was like, yeah, that's Greek. What are you talking about? But this is an example of that, where I thought it was okay to put my hands on the opposite sex and do that. Like, that was okay.
But it's interesting because I just wanna check something out here, because this, I think oftentimes their feelers are being put out. So it's like, well, I'm gonna just like break this boundary a little bit and just see how this person responds.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the integrity and the transparency of the recovering addict comes into play. Like we were talking about a similar situation where, like, let's say I was like a coworker. I'm like, look, I'll walk you to your car so you don't get, attacked by a mean man or whatever, right? And maybe I'm walking her to the car because I really care about her safety and I just want her to get in the car safe. Maybe I'm walking her to the car because it's a little bit of a connection with her and I just want to see where she's going to go with that, right? And what is my intention? I might be doing the same thing, but my intention behind it could be different. And this is where my transparency needs to come up and my ownership of it. Of, you know what, I wanted to walk that girl to the car because I wanted to flirt with her. So I need to be careful about walking her to the car. And I can tell myself all day long it's about trying to protect her, right? But actually I wanted to flirt with her. So I'm not going to do that anymore. Do you see the honesty there?
Yeah, uncovering
with
the
yourself.
intention.
With yourself.
Yeah.
And your spouse will trust you if you do have that integrity and if you do have that accountability within yourself, then you're a transparent, honest man, right?
Yeah.
And now you might say, when I touched that waitress's arm, I was oblivious. I didn't have any intentions. I wanted the best hamburger she could bring me, right? So whatever it is.
Or likely, I can remember that situation clearly. And it is likely that was just simply me seeking validation from someone else because of the spot that we were in. And I think that, I honestly believe, just thinking back on that, I think that was before we started recovery. I really do.
It wasn't.
Okay. But my point with it is if it was, then it was really, really early.
It was, for sure.
And it was clearly another one of those layers of, Coby's a big mindless onion, and so we're gonna peel back the layers of mindlessness over and over again. But I'm certain it wasn't just like my interaction with the opposite sex was definitely about validating who I was.
Yeah.
For certain.
Right.
Prior to our marriage, definitely since.
So what Ashlyn's gut was telling her in that moment, that uncomfortable, like, Coby's connecting, it was true.
Yeah.
You were connecting with another woman to get some validation. I mean, you weren't, like, trying to have sex with her or getting her phone number or anything, but it was just a little bit of betrayal right there in that moment.
And with me right next to him, like, it happened obviously when I wasn't there,
right.
within work environments, but when it was right in front of me, it was really scary.
Yeah.
Because I thought, well, what is he doing when I'm not?
Behind the
Totally.
scenes. Yeah.
Because he doesn't think this is wrong.
But you know what, Coby? You just owning that right now in this moment, that creates trust between the two of you. Because think about it, if you sat back and you said, well, no, you were just over the top here, you were a little crazy, or I meant nothing by it, but deep down you did, then your honesty and your integrity has now been broken down, and you're a less trustworthy man, right? But so think about it. Let's go back to my example of me walking a coworker to her car. My wife would feel safer and have more trust with me if I could go home and say, hey, I wanted to walk this person to the car because I wanted to flirt with her. And I recognize that and I don't want to do that. As opposed to like,
Totally.
yeah, I walked her to the car and it was nothing, but deep down it was something, then my wife's picking up on my energy. She's picking up on this energy of honesty and transparency and openness. And if I'm an open man, I got nothing to hide. She's going to know who I am.
Yeah.
She's going to trust me. If I'm shady and I'm hiding things, but my justification is, well, it would hurt her if I told her, and I'm keeping her safe by not telling her these things, right? I'm actually creating this disconnect in our relationship.
And that's energy that can be absolutely felt.
Totally.
By both parties. And the reality of it is the addict, me, I diluted myself. That it wasn't discernible by Ashlynn. That my lies and my shame were indiscernible. That's how diluted and how much denial that I was.
I hate to tell you guys, but a woman's intuition is incredible.
Yeah.
and they can pick up on energy and what's going on. And sometimes they're off, but not that often. Usually,
See,
Ashlynn was on point.
usually if
I
they're
was always on point. I just didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
right.
Like, I would just go to him with like, here, I have this like prompting, and it was like, no, you don't.
You're
And I
right.
was like,
Totally.
okay, I guess I don't. I don't know.
How could you not trust your gut when I was like coming back to you, throwing it in your face at like 4 or 5 fold? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, what else are you supposed to think when that happens, when I would do that to you?
Right.
It's a super unfair thing, and honestly, that's a gift that's heaven sent, and I totally shamed you because of it.
When in
Just stupid.
when in a healthy relationship, what you want to do is empower each other.
Totally.
Right? If she feels something in her gut and you can hear it and you say, wow, like let's look at who you are here and be boundaried and be honest and be open about what you're feeling here, as opposed to let's crazy make and turn the tables and get you off your rocker here so that I can get away with this.
Totally.
Right. So.
Okay, so now this is some of the conversations we had prior to this episode, is kind of discussing this and then discussing the deep dive on this. I think the really important piece of this deep dive that we're going to address on Patreon today is talking about the head-on collision that transparency that safety and transparency present. Am I safe for my partner? Yes or no? Am I not safe for my partner? Yes or no? And then what level of transparency the addicted really is willing to be, and what that looks like, because there's a lot of different scenarios that come into play on that.
Yeah.
And I think that's super important as far as like evaluating yourself as the betrayer, as the addicted. Where am I? Because and let's just be really, really honest. There's gonna be guys who will listen to this, guys and women, men and women who are the addicted, who will think to themselves, okay, is my partner legit? Are they safe for me? And there's gonna be some of you who are listening who are like, yes, like I know that my partner's safe for me. And then there's gonna be some who say, okay, well, even though they're safe, why am I not being transparent?
Yeah.
And more importantly, what's keeping me from? Versus some are like, yeah, they are safe, and yeah, I'm gonna tell them. And it's a really hard dichotomy to think through.
I like what you're saying, and we'll talk about this on the deep dive, is the process of rebuilding trust, and how to be transparent in that process.
Mm-hmm.
So, because like, if you listen to this today, I hope what you don't do is go home and pull up the dump truck and just unload everything onto your spouse in one moment. Boom, right? Let's walk you through the process of how to start to have a relationship built on transparency.
I mean, that's, and I will say this too, that the thing that I feared as the addicted was Ashlynn, you finding my phone and just searching. Like even for 5 minutes, I would be freaking out. Excuse me, and then I would be coming, like figuring out in my head, what is it that I need to be able to do in order to justify whatever you might find. I was a total mess. But the best thing ever with my phone is that it's totally safe and benign of anything like that. And that feeling of peace and confidence that comes because of transparent living is one of the most valuable things that I feel inside.
I remember many times the uncomfortableness of like, I need to use your computer, I need to use your phone. And then even in the new house that we've only been in 6 months, this far into recovery, he will still have moments where he says, this feels so good that you can just get on my stuff and I don't care.
So what you guys are saying is it feels better to just live your life in the light and on the surface than it is to not get caught.
Yeah.
Like, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It
feel
feels
good, I haven't
harder, but it's not.
It's freeing. It's peace.
You have to get
can't
through the
have
mud
peace
first.
without it. Yeah.
But
then
that
your
mud-
life's on the surface. You got nothing to hide.
Yeah.
It's a great feeling, and we'll discuss the deeds of that and some of the markers that we used when we went down that path. So guys, thanks for being here. And as far as sharing this episode, best practices with sharing this is, hey, I heard some really cool stuff today on this, and these are some takeaways that really spoke to me.
How to have honesty in your marriage,
Yeah.
how to
And I really
create
enjoyed it.
safety and trust. So here you go, friend. Right?
Thanks for being here, guys.
See ya.
Bye-bye.